Record on this computer. Yes, we're going to record and we're going to start. Welcome everyone. If this is your first time ever hearing about SPAO or joining in on one of this, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction. We're going to go over a couple things. I'll introduce the two artists, and then I'll talk about the exhibition a little bit, and then I'll pass it over. I have a couple kind of cool little event type engagement pieces that this is the first time I'm seeing, so I'm excited about that. And then we'll open it up to questions from the public. But if you ever have a question, if you ever can't hear me, if it's ever an issue, I am watching the chat, so put all your little messages in the chat. Yeah, so that's it. So SPAO, the SPAO Centre runs the only two-year photographic arts diploma in Canada. We have numerous evening, weekend, part-time classes for kind of simple classes, workshops, etc. We have a 6-month artist residency that's designed for mentorship, grant writing, technical components. It's really designed to help you kind of get to the next level. We still have, I think, we have a call open right now for artist residents, but it's getting to, it's almost there. And of course, we have SPAO Gallery, and that's where Jennifer's sitting right now. So as part of the SPAO Gallery, we produce several exhibitions a year celebrating the work of regional, national, and international artists, always working in a lens-based medium, so it can be photo traditional or it can be photo adjacent, whatever have you. These exhibitions feature professional artists as well as artists from the diploma program, our part-time studies, and the residency. We also have our outdoor exhibition component called the photosynthesis garden. Right now there's a hanging system, and we are fundraising to kind of extend that system to the side so that we can really kind of create this outdoor gallery. We've noticed a lot of people since the pandemic walking by and kind of noticing our work for the first time. The gallery is open Wednesday to Sunday, 12 to 5, or by appointment or by chance. Never hesitate to email one of us if you want to come at 5:30 or 11:30 or whatever, or sometimes we can make exceptions. So as part of the gallery, I'll let you know that we do have a call for submissions right now. So the call for submissions, if you go to spao.ca/submit, you can do that. I'm planning exhibitions in 2022, so you have a good full year to plan and to process that. But I want to put that out there for anyone who's kind of thinking about it in the back of their mind. Same goes for the photosynthesis garden. If you have an idea for the garden outside, feel free to follow the same submission procedures and just let me know that it's for the garden, for the outdoor component. Okay, so now you know. Call for artist in residence. There's a call out for the gallery in case you want to submit. Let's get into this here. So I'm very happy to welcome Jennifer Stewart and Hannah Evans, the two artists for the current exhibition Reminder is kind of how we've been saying it. Hannah is a multidisciplinary artist in Ottawa, Canada. She's a graduate of SPAO a couple of years ago now, and is currently completing a Bachelor of Fine Arts at the University of Ottawa. Her work is concerned with narrative, identity, human connection. She's exhibited, of course, at Gallery 115, Exposure Gallery, and here at the SPAO Gallery. Jennifer Stewart is a multidisciplinary artist living in Ottawa, Canada. She graduated from the University of Ottawa with a BA in psychology, a specialization in psychology, 2008, and then from the SPAO Portfolio Program in 2010. She is currently enrolled at the University of Ottawa, completing a Bachelor of Education, graduating next year. Wow. She's exhibited at the U Gallery in Duncan, BC, Contact Festival in Toronto, Schenkman Arts Center here in Ottawa, Karshma Song Gallery here in Ottawa. In 2018, she won an Arts Award, an Arts Across Canada Council grant. I think I mixed that up. And in 2015, awarded a creation and production grant from the City of Ottawa as well. So her work often deals with remnants of conversations, relationships, exploratory-based practices. Welcome, thanks for coming. It's fantastic to have two SPAO alumni exhibiting here, and I think it's fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have this exhibition, and I just want to give a talk, just talk a little bit about it. So if you haven't seen the exhibition, it's still on until the 18th. We're still open, so come in, or check it out online, spao.ca/remainder. There's a kind of power and a relatability to broken relationships, or processing a relationship that has ended, or coming to terms with kind of your emotional response, that I find very relatable, or kind of a topic that affects people on any kind of level. You know, when you're going through some of these kind of issues, or these kind of troubling relationships, I find this exhibition can become a bit of a mirror, or kind of a way through, or kind of a way, like a helpful kind of processing tool. I find it a not only relatable topic in general, but during COVID, I've been talking to people, and I think it's really catalyzed a lot of people's relationships. All of a sudden you're very, very close to someone who, you know, or you're forced to kind of make decisions where you are very close to somebody. So for the pandemic, I've seen people that just started dating all of a sudden move into each other, so they be in with each other so they can be closer. And that's been an issue. I've seen people break up, you know, all of a sudden it's like, I can't be stuck with you. So they'll break up because of COVID. I've seen people, you know, in my very personal life, who have all of a sudden, because they're so close, they can't stand each other anymore, and they're trying to work through those issues of how to cohabitate, how to live with someone. And that's kind of, you know, it's kind of taking an interesting path. So, you know, a couple of times there was a kind of question, how is this still relatable during current events? And I think it's more now than ever before. We had a couple guests in here who, visitors to the gallery, who had kind of very strong emotional responses to the work. And it's just like, yes, I know exactly where they're coming from and what's going on. Yeah, so very happy to have the exhibition. I think it speaks to a wide topic, and I think it's more relevant now than ever before. So very happy to have this exhibition on. With that being said, I want to pass it on over to Jen and Hannah to give a bit of a self-introduction. Tell me a little bit more about yourself, what you're up to now, and then maybe discuss a piece or two in the show.
Do you want to go first, Jen?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say one thing first, actually. I'm going to pop a link into the chat here. Oops, I did that to just one person. Hold on, it has to be to everyone. There we go. Let's try that again. So just like Darren said, thanks for that introduction. We were very interested in this process of breakups and what happens when you break up with someone and what's left over. So what the link is going to bring you to a different app called Padlet. And basically, I'm asking for participants to either upload photos or add text about something that you've held on to from a breakup, and maybe the reasons why. I'm just really interested in and maybe at the end I'll share my screen and we can see what some people have shared. So you might not have a picture of it, that's fine. You could just explain, like, you know, I've kept the letters from my boyfriend in high school or girlfriend, or I've kept, you know, this teddy bear that I got as a present, and like why. And so, because one of the components of this show was dealing with this stuff that we have left over, not only emotional baggage, but also those physical objects and how those are connected. So I just wanted to add that link there. Feel free to get adding. So yeah, I'll do a brief little intro. Darren covered most of my bio. Yeah, I do. Main things about my work is I do love darkroom photography. I do have a darkroom in my basement right now. I love that physical element. So you can see some prints behind me. I printed those at home in my laundry room, darkroom. Most of my work is very much self-exploration. I'm dealing with issues in my life or emotions. I do really like collaboration. So we had Hannah and I collaborated on the curation of the show and kind of the picking out the pieces that work together. Yeah, and I'm becoming a high school teacher. So I'm really learning how my art world and my teaching world and those selves kind of interact, and I've been learning a lot about myself as a teacher by thinking about myself as an artist. So that's my kind of current journey. I will talk about one piece. It's actually two pieces. I'm gonna move my computer to show you. So, oh yeah, I am in the gallery right now, by the way. So there's a glare on this piece. Oh, I'm trying to get a good non-glare shot. Okay, so this is one half of the piece that's titled "I'm Looking Through You." I'll just show you the other half and then I'll kind of explain. It's gonna be hard to see. Okay, so it's really dark outside. There's the other half, it's on the window. So these are vinyl, printed on vinyl, translucent, and then they're adhered to glass. And what I wanted to say about this piece, first of all, the physicality of it is that I'm really in love with slide film. So a lot of you who are photo nerds know what slide film is, but basically it's positive film. So when you look at it, when you get it developed, it's already a photograph. So it's in the positive. It's not, you don't need to flip it. And so what I wanted to do with these pieces was recreate kind of big slides. The one that's on the window was actually captured on slide film, and I love the magic of it, and so I really wanted that to translate. So that's why I tried printing these on glass, putting them onto glass. Now, another element of that, you may have noticed the title is "I'm Looking Through You." I took this title from a Beatles song. I'm gonna sing, I'm a terrible singer, my apologies. But yeah, it's "I'm looking through you, you're not the same. I thought I knew you." Oh wait, oh dang, I mixed up the words. Hold on, just a sec. Bear with me.
While you're looking up the lyrics, I just want to talk quickly. The one on the glass, in the morning, the sun shines through it, so the work doesn't kind of just hang on the wall. It comes alive. The reflection of the sun coming through the piece moves around the gallery throughout the day. We actually have a low winter sun, so in the summer it'd be a little bit different. But it actually does have a daily lifespan, which I think is really fascinating, really kind of engaging. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I like about slide film is you can hold it up to the window and you get like such beautiful, beautiful colors. Okay, I found the lyrics. They are, "I'm looking through you. Where did you go? I thought I knew you. What did I know?" So this really spoke to me. When you're with someone, you're really immersed in it and you really do feel like you know that person inside and out. And then sometimes, you know, that shifts really drastically when you separate from them and you are like, wow, everything I thought I knew is just like shattered. So yeah, so that really that song stuck with me. And yeah, that's kind of my piece. That's I don't think I have anything else to add about that one. So I'll let Hannah go ahead. And Hannah, if you want me to show your piece, let me know.
Yeah, I did. I might share my screen just because there's a lot to it. But maybe I'll get you to turn your computer around just to see it in the gallery, even if people haven't seen it. Oh. Okay, intro. Hi. So yeah, Darren said everything. I graduated from SPAO in 2017. And ever since then, I've been at U Ottawa doing a BFA because I wasn't really sure what to do after SPAO. And I'll be graduating this year in April. And then my plan is also go to Teachers College. So I'm hopefully going to go do that in Montreal and to be a high school art teacher, just like Jen, which is funny. And I think that was all for intro stuff. For what I'm doing, like working on kind of now at U Ottawa, I'm actually doing painting more than photography. And that's been really fun. And then it was also like really nice to come back and do a photo show because I've been more focused on painting for a few years. So I was going to talk about, I have a big piece in the show. I'll just share my screen. I just mocked this up on Photoshop, so excuse the quality of, it's obviously not on a real wall. You guys can see that?
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, as you can see in Jen's screen as well, I made a piece that's actually 15 panels put together. for text panels, and then the rest are photos. Yeah, and this piece, this is like, it's very, I didn't really know how I was going to make this at the beginning. Like, I had all these photos and I didn't really know what to do with them. And I was actually just going to pick like one or two, and they were going to be like big next to each other. And in the end, I decided to go with this format because it's more of like a story, and it really does, for me anyway, it tells like kind of the whole story in a very brief way, but the first image like starts at the beginning, and then the last text panel kind of ends with, you know, like saying, it says, sorry, I gotta pull up the text because I don't recall off the top of my head. It says, I hope you don't think of these moments too, but I know you and I know that you do. And so like from the beginning of, you know, the beginning of our relationship to the end, and like how you go on to think about that person after and how you think you know them, very similar to what Jen was saying. Sorry, let me just pull these up again. Yeah, so I also like, I wanted this piece to be kind of like a window into how I felt. And it's much more about like me and how I felt than the other person from this relationship. And like, it's sort of like all of them have these windows in them, and it's very much like when you're in a relationship, especially one that's ending or that you feel trapped in, like you're kind of isolated, and like you don't really, you know, you can't, sometimes you can't talk to people because you don't really want them to know all the like the little things of your relationship and all this. So I felt obviously very isolated, and like this piece, I liked that it had like, I'm looking out, but you're also looking in. And like, I feel like it really sums up how I felt this kind of like trapped sort of feeling, and not just in that relationship, but you know, in the end of something where you're still really attached, but you also are like partway out. Yeah, I did have some stuff to say about the text, but I think we're going to talk about text later. So I'll come back to that. But I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking about how, like with all of the text that's in this piece, and I don't know if you guys haven't seen it. I'm not sure if you can actually see it that closely online. But they're just sort of like little moments. I don't know how well you can see this. I'll just kind of put them there for a minute. But I was thinking about how it's interesting that like these moments, I wrote them a long time ago, and I don't think I could write them now. Like enough time has passed that I actually probably wouldn't be able to dig these out of my memory anymore. Which is kind of like a fascinating thing, you know. It's like, as we're putting this show together, it felt really recent because we started about a year and a half ago. And at this point, I'm realizing how much time has passed because I do remember these moments, but I really couldn't have written them down today. So that was kind of a cool moment. Yeah, so this piece obviously is probably better if you just go look at it in person if it's possible, but I feel like this is the one that really sums up the show to me.
It's interesting that you talk about it almost narrative-like, because the way that I almost kind of took it in, or that I personally kind of took it in, is that all of these things are happening at once. You know, at the time they kind of are progressions, but when I look at the whole piece together, for me, it's that all the emotions happen at once, or rather like sometimes things like a wave comes on you and you can't express or deal with it, and looking at it all together to me is like instant moments of like emotion, lyric, something like a mirror, like something that kind of comes back and forth. So just an interesting kind of perspective that way, is that when I see it all at once and it all comes to me, it's like a flood of something that is unnameable. So to hear it as a linear, it makes sense as well in terms of like telling a story. But yeah,
that's cool to hear someone else's reading of it. Thought about a lot. It's really neat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do love working in a space where I get to see this and kind of process it every single morning when I come in, and I'm like, okay, how do I get there? What do I feel when I come through this? And I love talking to people as they come in the gallery too, and what their thoughts are, and kind of how they're interpreting it as well. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's something that I think as artists that exhibit work, we're all, I mean, I hope we're all aware that everybody brings their own experiences to the work and interpretation. So that's what's kind of magical about putting artwork on the wall, is once you put it on the wall, it kind of takes on a life of its own. So am I okay to start my second activity?
Yeah, absolutely, go for it.
Okay, so I hope everyone's taken a look at the Padlet that we had started. I have a second Padlet. As you can tell, I'm in Teachers College. We use these types of things. So I'm gonna plop it in the chat. So this is a different one. And I'd like everybody to take a few minutes to actually do this activity. So what I'm gonna have you do is open that up. I'll just share my screen for a second to kind of just show you. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Good. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is I've added a few photos here. Hold on, let me move it over. I have about 5 photos. They're all pieces from the exhibit, so from Hannah and I. And I'm just interested in people adding one word that comes to mind when you look at each photograph. So you can just answer for one photograph, or you can add one for all of them. But basically all you do is press the plus if you want to answer under one of those, and you can write a little word. I don't know, dreams. Okay, and then that's it, you're done. Okay, so I'm gonna actually just delete that one, because anyways, I want other people to add, hi Olivia, I see your face. I want other people to add their words, and it's a little bit of an activity to see kind of that word association. So I'm gonna put a timer on. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. There we go. Okay, close that up. Okay, and I'd love for people to just take a couple minutes to do that. I'm gonna maybe take a look around 7:30. So go ahead. I don't know if we want to just be silent during this time, or.
No, let's talk a little bit about image and text while people are doing this, because I think that's a big crux of the show. There's lots of little moments with text, even in the objects case within the show. There's lots of little handwritten notes. There's lots of little kind of scribbles. There's in Hannah's piece, there's lots of little quotes in the artist text on the big feature wall. You know, you guys have pulled in kind of really engaging didactic text, and it appears kind of throughout the exhibition. That's why we're doing this little activity. And I just wanted to ask if this was a conscious thing, if you knew you wanted to pair them both, or how you went about doing that, if you felt like one had to be paired with the other, or just maybe talk a little bit about why text has become a big component in this show. Yeah.
Sure, Hannah, why don't you start on that one?
Sure. So I think we weren't consciously like, let's pair text and image a lot. It's just something that I think Jen and I do a lot. I've noticed this before we had ever worked together, that like we work very similarly in content and in like ways of showing our work. And so when we originally kind of got together and talked about everything, a lot of the objects and things that we actually have are text, and that's like texts that we have written, literally texts like from that we were going to originally include in the show. Yeah, text, I think we're both like visual storytellers, but also like find written word like very useful and inspiring. Like, you know, Jen obviously has used lyrics and stuff, and I find I'm not so much like inspired by lyrics, but by, you know, just little like observations I've made in a moment. And I find for me that I just like the way that text pushes the story along a little easier, and I have a little bit more control over how people read it. Whereas I find if it's just imagery, people do bring their own stuff to it, and I'm glad of that. Like, I'm glad for that, and I'm glad for the, you know, universality of it. But I am telling my story, and yeah, I don't know. There are these little moments that like just little thoughts that I could never show in a photo. And I think they were still, especially for this show, like very important. So I'm glad that we did include the text component. Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, by the way, I see those two questions. Thank you. And I'll come back to those in the chat. Those look really good. I just wanted to add one anecdote. I started a collage unit with my grade 8s in my placement and in their art class. And we're talking about this very topic, which is why like incorporate text with image. And I think the main, Hannah basically covered everything, but the main message that I'm talking to the grade 8s about is providing some kind of message and to try to really make it more intentional. So, and also for me, for text, like there's something about, I personally really like handwritten stuff, and I really try to include that in a lot of my objects. A lot of them are handwritten. And I just find it so personal. And I think it just adds that really personal, intimate kind of element. And for this work in particular, because we're talking about those, you know, really close, intimate relationships, like I have held on to their writing because, you know, it really strikes me. It evokes emotions in me of remembering, like seeing their writing. So yeah, so I thought it was really important to include that too.
And a lot of the pieces that include text too are in like the object boxes that we have. Like, I think we both have, pieces that are not, like, we didn't write them, we didn't make them, they came from somebody else.
Oh gosh, yeah. This is hard. Okay, tell me if am I lined up?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. Mostly? Okay, so we have 2 handwritten things in there. That's my writing and then we have, for those that haven't seen the show, I'll just do a quick, can you see it all? My camera's really bad. Maybe I'll go on this side.
Yeah, no, we can see that there's, you can see it's okay.
You can't read it, but you can see there's stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Are both of you note takers as well? Are both of you kind of like, when I listen and I engage, I note take, I kind of doodle, I kind of do these little things, and that kind of spurs memory for me. Yeah.
I'm not actually, funnily enough. I find I can't actively listen if I'm writing down stuff. I'm more likely to write stuff down after, like, or in moments of like reflection. I don't really do it while I can't multitask like that same way. So, okay. But definitely a note maker, just not like as an active listening tool.
Okay, should we deal with these? Okay, wow, we're getting some really good questions, but I want to show the one-word answers. So maybe I'll show the one-word answers first, and then we can come to, there's 3 questions that are really good in the chat. So I'm just going to share my screen again. Here, I'll try this. Thank you everyone for participating in this. I'm very excited. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, so here on the image 1, we have detail, boyfriend, clear skies, noticed, smug, mannequin, sculptural, unavailable, fragmented, thinking, and dream. Those are excellent. I love this. Okay, so that was my image. This is Hannah's, number 2. We have trapped, which actually ties, I think that was written before because I had a friend do a test run. So Hannah, it's funny because you were talking about being trapped using this image. Isolated, dreaming, flying, reflection, spacious, hope, travel. Oh, don't we miss traveling? Glimpse, leave, clarity. Beautiful. Thank you. On this one's one of mine. Summer, escape, car rides, shame. Oh, wow. Waiting, forgotten, transitory. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you. So I just love that everybody's taking it in really different directions. So I just love this. Okay, let's move over. Okay, so on this one is Hannah, one of Hannah's images. Fatigue, pillow time, drained, separate, sorrow, sad, quiet, peace, alone, collapse, everyday, light, comfort, and done. Wow. There's a really nice theme there. And then I'll scroll over here. Can you see the full image, Hannah? Okay,
Yeah.
so this is one of mine as well. Haven, alone, solitary, quiet, stillness, sweat, isolated, framework, memory, past, after. Wow, these are amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. And I will definitely keep your answers because I think that those are super interesting. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. That was the first time I tried that using that website. So thanks, everyone.
It's also, it's funny as someone who, like, two of the images are mine, to see like the readings of them that are like either like weirdly accurate or very different. And I'm like, oh, I see why you thought that, but like I actually know, you know, I have real memories of that image, and then sort of see like other people's ideas about it is really interesting. That was cool. Thanks.
It highlights your point, Hannah, that images will take a life of their own. Like images, when you put them on, kind of you're not in as much control as text specific would. I think it's a really good example of showing that like this image was directly related to me, but you've brought everything else to it, and the text is kind of what mediates both of it. So I think that echoes your point really nicely, actually.
Okay, my partner is getting mad at me because I said a friend did the testing. My partner was the one who did the testing. So I just didn't want to be like, my boyfriend was the one. Okay, so sorry. A public apology to you, Leo. Okay. All right, so should we answer some of these questions, Darren?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
Okay,
so question one, what will you do with the exhibit work after this show? Are you going to keep this, or is this, what are you going to do with the work as it comes off the wall?
Hannah, why don't you start, because I know you were. I
never know what to do with stuff after. Likely the people close in my life might get one of these for Christmas. So Megan, talking about you. Yeah, I never really know what to do with stuff. Sometimes I've saved stuff and then I will, try to exhibit it somewhere else, or I rarely like bring things in to make them part of a new project, but I have seen other artists do that, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm honestly not sure, so.
I was just gonna say, I typically am like a huge hoarder, but just right now I'm kind of going through a purge mode where I'm like, after 10 years of collecting my old works, like I have a huge amount of stuff. So I've been throwing stuff out. I've been like cutting up pieces that I did in school, like cutting them into small, I have these like huge pieces that I just cut up because I'm just like in this like mode right now. So some of these, like the bigger ones, I might just get rid of, because part of this, like this whole exhibit is letting go. So I think some of the bigger ones I may destroy / let go because I don't really see them existing in any other kind of space. Or
that's a good point. Actually, I had talked about like literally getting rid of everything.
The objects you were talking about, throwing out all the objects.
Yeah,
right?
The objects, I'm not keeping anything.
Yeah. So I have a hard time though, because I'm really emotionally attached to things. So the objects I'll probably keep, most of them, but the print, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
That actually ties in really nicely to the next question, which is this exhibition catalytic for you? Can you now park this and kind of move on? Does this exhibition kind of move you into a new headspace? Is this kind of like you're processing and now you're done, or is this kind of still you're in the middle of processing and you're not sure where it's going to go? But I guess what we do with the artwork reflects maybe how you're kind of feeling emotionally about the relationships themselves.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And for me, this show was very much about putting these like there's kind of two main people that I've talked about in this show. And for me, it was very much like closing these chapters of my life. It was very therapeutic for me to put this show together and to create this works. And yeah, I just kind of feel free to move forward and to try something totally different. So yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, same. I think we have been working on it for a long time. And when we first started working on it, my relationship that's in this show was a lot fresher than Jen's were. We've actually now been working on the show, I think, longer than we were ever together. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, and there is definitely like, it's done, it's over kind of thing. So that's, yeah, I think it was really, has been healthy and helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to switch a bit to the next question, can you speak a little bit about the ethics of depicting people who might not agree to be depicted? We actually had someone with a background of law kind of see the exhibition and come to us and say, you know, how does this function? How does this work? You know, where are we in this? And it was a bit of a conversation too, as the process of the exhibition rolled along, how much we wanted to show people's faces, how much we wanted to show their bodies. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you chose to do things. There is a couple pieces where faces are covered. There's a couple of things where things are torn. So just elaborate on depicting people who might not agree to be depicted because of the
yeah, this has been a common question. I've done another show, so thanks, Olivia, for getting at that one again. Anyways, kidding. I did a different show where I basically had pictures of one of these people plastered all over it. And that was a common question that I was asked. And for this show, we definitely from the beginning made a conscious decision that these people are going to remain anonymous. So their names are not present in anything. If they were, we kind of black them out or remove them. Their faces are very hard. Like if you wouldn't be able to identify this person if you were a stranger. People that have been in my life obviously know who this person is, but I've definitely made for my own pieces a very conscious decision to remove, so for this piece behind me, there is no faces. This has an element, I have some ripped pieces on the floor, but even like all the eyes are ripped out. It's very fragmented, so you can't really identify this person. So that was kind of my argument. Also, something I tell people is like, I mean, I hope my exes are listening right now, but yeah, they have huge egos. So honestly, I don't think that they would be upset to have their like body or like essence plastered over these walls. Like honestly, I think they would be like, I'm pretty important, you know? So that doesn't really concern me. I didn't really say anything bad about them. I haven't really plastered any kind of hate or terrible thing, like all the stuff that I would consider that would tarnish their reputation or anything like that. I've kept that to myself. So yeah, Hannah, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, the first night of the show, we gave a talk to this current SPAO students, and that was one of the questions was sort of like, did we tell the people who were in the show? And at that time, we both hadn't. And I actually the next day did send an email to the person in the show and, you know, just reiterated that it wasn't to hurt them and that there's nothing bad in the show. There's nothing that slanders them. And yeah, I think I kind of feel the same way that Jen did, where like, I mean, who wouldn't feel a little bit, you know, validated by the fact that there's an entire show about them. And I think that that's something that the people we've dated have in common, is that they would feel that way. And also, like the response that I received when I did the show was this person said, like, you know, I knew that about you when we were dating. Like, I've always known that you're like this, and I know that's how you work and how you think. And so, and they said, like, I consented at the time, you know, like I knew that. So for me, like, yeah, I think if there had been like a fight about it, that would be a different thing. But I don't know. I think it's
You're dating
okay.
a photographic artist. It's like a risk that comes along with it.
What's that? Oh, if you date a photograph, yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and they knew, and I even said in my email, I said this probably wasn't unexpected. Like, I'm sure that you're not surprised. Yeah, and like if you leave people's faces out, it's legally fine, I think, and their names. So I think we both were like, it'll be fine.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to kind of throw in there is I don't feel like this show is about someone more than it is about you personally. And we had that question come up in the students talk as well, is that how do you feel about putting yourselves so much on display? You know, sometimes physically when you're crying in the camera, sometimes it's literally like, this is an experience I went through that was harrowing or was emotionally kind of strong, right? Like I I think that there's an interesting kind of thought we can have about this show where yes, the content might be other people, but the crux of this is yourselves putting your own stories out there, and I think that's the artistic risk that you've taken. That I think you know, and like you said, there's no hateful things out there. It's like this was my experience as a personally. Okay, I had a question. Is there any particular artist that influenced this work? Are you inspired by anybody? Did you think about it?
Yeah, I would say my two main, I'm inspired by lots of, especially female photo-based artists, but my two main ones, anybody that knows me, I am obsessed with Sophie Calle. She's a huge inspiration, and I'll talk more about her later when we talk about the bed piece. And I love Nan Golden too. I'm a huge fan of her. I always loved her kind of like messy kind of like this really like grainy kind of excellent palette that she works in, and the very much that intimate nature of Nan Golden's work as well. So those I would say would be my two.
Yeah, I definitely had a major Sophie Calle moment in at SPAO, and I think that her approach to art making is incredible. And Nan Golden as well, like, has been a reference given to me a lot. And actually,
Copier.
What's that?
Copier.
Yeah, total copier. Well, I was gonna say, Jen, that you're also like, when I thought about, like, I know Olivia, I can see Olivia being like, is like when I was making personal work and I wasn't really sure like if I felt valid in that, like I was very inspired by Jen's work, and we weren't even really close back then. I just like had seen her work. So yeah.
I try.
We had a question. So the show is accessible to those who can't see it in person. We have that kind of online exhibition component. How do you think that digital barrier affects the viewer's reading of the show? So this is kind of an interesting question. The pandemic on my side as a kind of gallery manager, curator, has forced me to create these digital components so that more people can see them, people that are at risk can see them, and we're having a really great response to it. We're getting pings from all over the world. But I think that that's a huge, there is a real barrier there. When I look at that page, it doesn't read the same way that I'm in the space, and I am open to kind of playing, and we're open to interpreting that. But I wonder if you guys had any thoughts on how you feel the exhibition page versus the in-person, what kind of barriers you're seeing, what kind of interpretation is different one versus the other?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not going to be the same. One thing I like about being here is you can see all the textures. Like, so this is actual, like, fiber paper. It's shiny. Like Hannah has a piece that has a piece of vellum on it. There's the bed. You can see the texture. So the textures, I think, it's hard to capture that. I think you did a great job on the digital show, because on one hand, I agree, yes, okay, we can't totally represent the actual real life experience, but I've also been able to share the show with more people that wouldn't have probably gone to it in person. They're not in Ottawa. So I think that there's positives to it as well. Hannah, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same, and with the smaller pieces and stuff that is more intimate, like you can't really look at it the same way. I do think though that there's something nice about the fact that they are online for kind of like the privacy of looking at it. Like I know sometimes when I go into a gallery, especially a small gallery, you know, and the gallery attendant will check on you. But there is this sort of like, you're kind of self-conscious about how long you look at certain things. And so I kind of like that there's like, you really can look at this exhibition and all of the online ones without being watched at all. So I do think that that's kind of nice. I mean, to me, ideally, you can see both, like online and then go home and look at it secretly. But yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, there's this, you're not on display when you're looking at the show, which I sometimes feel. So,
That's a good point.
Yeah, and you know, ideally this will last longer too. So, you know, 2 years from now, someone will be able to come back and be like, oh yeah, I saw that show. It's still up. It'll kind of last as a portfolio piece. But I do wonder if we're going to move into kind of a submission process where I accept the space, you know, a proposal for the space as well as a proposal for the digital space, and how to match those two up. You know, I talked to someone who's in contemporary craft and who makes things, and then their only way to show that made object is to photograph it or to somehow document it and put it online. How do we make sure that those two experiences are similar and it's not just a documentation of one or the other? So I do wonder how this will catalyze artists to think about experiences both on the digital kind of exhibition page and the space, and maybe they're going to be two very different experiences, but both kind of with the intent of, you know, a certain emotion or something.
as somebody doing a fine arts degree online right now, it's honestly such a different, like, you know, I'm a painter and like have working on paintings, but I know that they're going to be seen online, and that like it kind of affects the way that I work, and like, yeah, it's a weird time when you know that it's not going to be seen in person, and it kind of opens up like different ways of creating, and like I've definitely been introducing a lot more digital art into what I'm doing, but like kind of like a hybrid. Yeah, so that's a cool idea of, I mean, things only being online one day. Anyways.
See what happens. Oh, thanks, Olivia, for your comment. Also, the subjects become icons when their faces are obscured. Yeah, for sure. And it pulls on that whole art history tradition, you know, like of sculptures and I do.
And relics.
Yeah, relics, exactly. And thinking about the body as being timeless, you know, and yeah, it all works. It works with that. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, do we want to move into questions I had prepared? We had so many halfway through questions. I love it, but we can move into those, or we can go back to the Padlet.
Yes, hold on.
Yeah, yeah.
I just realized that people have added, and I would love to share to the objects Padlet before we start tomorrow.
Okay. Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna share. Okay, so you can see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna read a few of these. Maybe Hannah, can you see too? And I'll get you to read a few. Okay, so I'll read this one here. I keep and still use gifts that he gave me regularly, though we didn't stay friends. After creeping their social media, I saw that he gave his current partner gifts that I gave him previously. Wow. Okay, I'll read this one. Thank you for sharing. That is wild. I tried to arrange a get-together so I could break up with him. Can I ask if the purpose of tomorrow truly is about getting together to discuss not getting together anymore? Wow. Okay, this is an image here of looks like a male person. It says, I've kept it because I just can't get rid of it. Thank you for sharing.
I think that's such a common, really, you know, you have it and you don't know what to do with it, but you can't bear yourself to put it, you know, throw it in the trash with all the plastics. It's such, I think that's such a universal kind of, you know, feeling. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, this person said mostly just photos, especially Polaroids. Yeah, I can understand that. I pawned the ring they gave me, but kept all the letters they wrote me. Wow, that's interesting. See, are letters more valuable than something that has like a a price tag, you know what I mean? And
also a ring only has like one reading in a way, whereas like letters could be about a whole bunch of things. Like I feel like a ring is about like forever, whereas like a letter is more like from that moment.
Yeah.
Hannah,
Hannah, do you want to read a few?
Sure. I have an album on an external hard drive of one vacation I had with an ex. It was really fun and the only time I shared with him. I didn't want to completely erase all my memories with him. Yeah, the hard drive erasing is a whole other thing. It turns out that one can sour the memory of many, so I gathered all the letters, LPs, one shirt, pictures, trinkets, and fridge magnets from my past and threw them in the wood stove. Yeah.
There's some beauty in that too, and there's been so many movies, right, where someone breaks up with someone and they just like burn all their stuff, and I think that can be really cathartic too. I kept the shirt he forced upon me and burned it in the bathtub. Wow. And now, speaking of burning things, that's intense.
That's a very like, you hear about like burning things and it's like kind of cliche, but the burning it in the bathtub is like a whole other, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And doing it with water too is supposedly kind of more, because it actually flushes it away. So I came across a couple of times out west hiking in the woods, people burning a small something over a river or over a bridge with sage burning as well, as part of that kind of real kind of cleansing, flushing out, healing process. I think it's cliche, but I think it works so well. Like it really is, Yeah.
This one is just looks like a folded piece of paper that says "I love you" in the middle. That's beautiful. And these are some that we added. So these are two of my objects here, and this is obviously Hannah's. Hannah, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I included from Valentine's, which is not really like an important holiday to me or whatever, but this little card is interesting because the inside and the back side of it are like really risque, I guess. But the outside is so sweet, and I think it's really funny because I was mortified that whoever set up the gallery would look at the back or the inside of the card. And so I love like knowing that they're really intense, but the outside is just like Hannah with like a little heart. Darren, do not go look at the back of that card.
I know, speaking of that, one of my like journal things, I came to see it and Darren had it to a different page than the one I had originally planned. And I was like, oh no, I was so embarrassed. I was like, he probably read all the notes in there and like there's some mortifying stuff. I know. Okay, did I get them all? I think I got them all. Yeah, this was just a image of our objects. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing those. I love it. And if you do have any you want to add, I'll leave them open for like a couple days. So if you have a chance, maybe we'll post it on the event page as well, the links, if you want to add anything later. So thank you so much for that. Okay, Darren, you can go ahead.
All right, I'm rereading some of the questions, make sure there's no kind of overlap. So the first one I want to talk about is how this exhibition kind of was proposed and how it kind of evolved and abated over time. And I wanted to mirror that idea of emotions kind of are very kind of running high at the start and kind of like, evolve and abate or kind of shift over time. And I think that it's a really nice kind of parallel. The proposal was one thing, and then over the time it kind of took the form it is now. And I wondered if you could just quickly talk about that process. Yeah. For
sure. Sorry, Hannah, I always start. It's because
I don't mind, you go for it.
Okay. So yeah, I wrote down some notes here. So I was the one that applied with the sort of an idea related to this. And so it started off with one person, and then I think it was John suggested, Hannah has some work that's related. That's John Hoban. And so I approached her, and so then it was the two of us, and then I tried to find a third person. So then we actually did have a third person for a long time, for like almost a year. And I won't name this person just in case they want to remain anonymous, but another SPAO grad. And so it was a really cool process of collaboration throughout that time where we met. And what I liked about the three of us is that we were all in really different stages of our breakup. So I was like in time, but also in emotional response. So like I was like time-wise the furthest away. Hannah was probably next, and then this other person was like, it was happening like at that time. And then so we had really different emotional responses. So I was more like of two minds. Like I feel nostalgic, but I feel like angry, kind of flipping back and forth. Hannah could speak about her own. And then this other person was like angry, rightfully so, and going through a lot of really, really intense emotions. So like, because she was so in it, I think that it created like this really interesting mix. So where we were, some of our sessions were very much like therapy, like venting about these people, but also then realizing, okay, how do we make this, how is it going to look, you know, and how, for a while we called it relics because it was about like these kind of vestiges, these leftover things, and what those objects or items looked like. Yeah, and then for me, I'll let Hannah talk after, but for me, I'll allow it after, just kidding. For me, the experience, more of the recent post-production and like when I was printing the works, I had a really cool experience where I felt like I was really brought back to those really intimate times, and so literally printing in the darkroom and focusing on this person's skin and being like, oh yeah, I remember that mole, you know, like those little things, like it really, really brought me back. And I had like this really cool kind of moment where I was working through a lot of stuff right before I produced, like, so yeah, just like you said, Darren, about these emotional kind of like roller coaster, I did feel that. And I think it only just added to the work for me and added to my, the therapeutic process of creating it. So that's kind of the process for me. Hannah, did you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, the beginning, Jen approached me about it, having also known my ex, like kind of knew, you know, a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, for me, like throughout the process, it was interesting because there were a few times where I was sort of like, ugh, I'm over this. Like, I feel like I've processed this now. I don't need to do this anymore. But like was committed, obviously, to the show, and then would sort of like, time would pass, and then there'd be like a moment where I'm like, no, I'm still really glad that I'm doing this. I just found like this new thing that like kind of is like fresh again, and like that I kind of need to work through. And so it was definitely, yeah, like a little bit up and down. And then also like, I mean, yeah, I feel great about it now, especially because things ended so badly, and then like the show almost gave me a reason also to reach out to this person and be like, have this one final kind of like surprisingly nice like ending message. I can't really remember the question, to be honest, at this point, but I think that mostly covered it.
Maybe I'll talk about, we didn't really address the title. So Hannah, why don't you, because you were the one that kind of coined the title Remainder Reminder.
Yeah, that came from something, but you know what? I can't remember what at this moment. I think it was from a reading I had done for like a gender class or something. But I really liked this idea that like things remain and they also remind, and like those are kind of the same, but they're also pretty different. Like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what the conception of it was, but I also love like titles that are sort of like opaque. Like, I don't know, like it obviously has a point for being two words, but it's sort of like, can't remember exactly where it came from, but at this point.
I put the title, that's fine, don't worry. I put the title in the chat. So we wrote it like where the A could be removed or not, so that there's that play on remainder and reminder. But yeah, you said it. Basically, we wanted something that would encompass kind of everything, and relics seem to be a bit too religious in connotation, and remainder.
And we'd also talked about like things that were a lot more visceral too. Like we had talked about like hemorrhaging or shedding, or like sort of like very bodily words. But I feel like they actually ended up like not being that relevant, because a lot of the stuff we have is not really that bodily. Like there are photos of bodies, but a lot of like, to me, the show is kind of centered around the objects, which are like more like papery, or more like there is some hair in the show and that is bodily, but this idea of like bleeding out and stuff ended up being like not really the feeling of the show anymore. So I'm kind of glad that we went towards this more like reminder, like sort of like more clean, like everyday object or everyday idea, instead of like a really visceral idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so I had an artist out west that would do this. He calls it visual poetry. It's untranslatable. It's not something that can be widely expressed universally, which I think is very interesting. It's visual, so I can't tell you everything by looking at the title, which I also think is very interesting. I think it's like it's image text very literally. Like you have to see the calligraphy, the letters of it to understand it, or else I remained a reminder, and they'll say, "Oh, is it 2 words?" And I say, "No, it's like a visual component to the text piece."
True, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And so just to touch back on a couple points, the show is largely curated by yourselves. There's very little kind of influence from outside. Just a touch. We had a couple meetings here and there. There was no studio visits. We were in the middle of pandemic. You normally I'd kind of come and see what you guys are working on, but it was largely kind of under your control, and that's why I think talking about this process is really interesting, because it did morph so radically. I do remember talking about blood and skin and more visceral components, and now there's an element of fleetingness to it. When I look at that image that kind of projects onto the ground and moves around, and I look at all the paper that's curling, and I look at even there's a piece with kind of like a tracing paper or like a vellum on it. It feels very ethereal and very fleeting, like these kind of moments are here or have been and are now leaving. And I wonder to kind of move into the next question about the intent of the exhibition, and if that has kind of changed over time. Is the intent to kind of show that this is fleeting, ephemeral, or is this intent to kind of personal catharsis, or is this intent to try and reach people to talk about, rethinking their own relationships? Like, are you in the middle of this? Like, or how have you processed this is another question that I think some people will put blocks up in their head and not process, traumas in their life, So I wonder if you could talk a bit about intent and of the exhibition, and what viewers are kind of, what you hope viewers will take away at the very minimum level.
I can start if you want. Yeah, I think like for me, it's pretty personal. Like I think when Jen first approached me about it, I was more like, this will be good for me kind of thing. And it was like very much, and I've always kind of made like a lot of my photographic work has always been very personal, and that's been the point of it, was more for me. And I like to show people, but it was more for me. But yeah, I think there is like, like Darren messaged me one day and said, somebody came into the gallery and was crying looking at my piece, and somebody I go to school with told me that they went and saw it and that it made them very emotional. And I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with like emotions, and have had a lot of like exes and stuff, and I've kind of gone through this a lot. And so like, I like the idea that people can relate to it. And yeah, I don't know, like everybody's been through a breakup for the most part. Like we liked the idea that this was like a very universal experience, whereas I feel like there are a lot of things that are really hard, a lot of things about loss, like death or miscarriage and stuff like that, that not everybody can relate to. And this is a topic that like so many people can. So yeah, as much as it is like for us, I mean, I think it makes both of us feel good if people have related to it and have felt like helped from it.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much all that I would say. I've already kind of talked about how my intentions for myself were to close those chapters. And for others, like for almost all of my work, yeah, no, I can say with certainty for all of my work, I just want people to feel something. I want them to reflect on the work and like think about their own experience, whether that's I'm in a relationship that I'm not happy, or, you know, I've had that experience before and I've recovered from it, or, you know, I've had a different type of loss and this is how I've dealt with it. I just want them to feel something. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so on Friday, November 13th, Jennifer Stewart spent the night at the SPAO Gallery as part of her piece, Jen and Blank in Bed. She slept in the bed from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. the following day. It was live streamed and recorded, so you can watch it on the digital component piece. There's a couple figures that will come in, so watch for those and kind of watch her as she's sleeping. Inspired by the works of Sophie Calle, Stewart explores the transformation of sleeping in a space post-breakup. A space that was once shared with another, the intimacy of sleep and the role that sleep plays within recovery. So Jen, you and I expressed very brief, like 2-word texts about this, but I'd love to like unpack the performance, how you felt, how you're kind of doing with that, what it was like to be in the space. I know my partner is in the Navy, so when we were first together and that kind of separation of sleeping alone it was such a visceral, like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I wonder how kind of universal that is, but just, yeah, talk about the piece a little bit, talk about the performance and the inspiration and everything about it. I just want to know more about how it went and how you feel afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, it was definitely a different experience for me. So as a photo artist, this was my first time doing, so with the bed itself, here, I'll just briefly show the bed in case anybody hasn't seen it. Okay, there's my bed. It's a queen size bed in the middle of the gallery. So that was actually my first, I would consider my first like sculptural kind of piece. And then this was also kind of my first public performance piece. And so I was really interested in a couple things. Like you said, I wanted to think about the bed as that recovery space. So when you are having a breakup, I don't know about most of you, but I'm spending a lot of time in bed, like crying, writing, sleeping, whatever. But it's also, yeah, it's that space that you shared with somebody. This exact bed was shared with these two, I lived with these two people, and we shared this bed. So to me, it was really significant to include it in the work. Now, I didn't pre-plan to do this sleeping, like it kind of just came to me and I was like, oh, like, wouldn't it be funny if I slept over? And then I kept thinking about it and I was like, yeah, actually, this is kind of an interesting idea. And so yeah, it was really different. I didn't sleep very well, but that was to be expected. But I'm really happy that I tried it. Like, I don't know, just some thoughts that I had about it were like, I am interested in the interaction between fiction and reality. So this was a fictional performance. I'm not recovering from this breakup right now, but I'm reenacting that recovery. But it is very much related to what I did in real life. I also do really like the idea of interacting with the space, or with the gallery space, and kind of, in a way, I feel like the gallery turned into a bit of a stage, you know, and kind of that transformation. So yeah, I've talked about Sophie Calle, but she does a lot of, she's done so many projects with beds. One of her main projects was called The Sleepers, where she invited people to take shifts sleeping in her bed, and she would like observe them and make notes about them, and she took pictures of them. And what I love about Sophie Calle's work is she does you know, a lot of these interactions and performance type work, and then she'll incorporate photography in such a unique way. And like the way that she pulls everything together is really interesting to me. So yeah, she was a huge inspiration for that piece. Because yeah, originally for the show, pre-pandemic, I envisioned like visitors getting into the bed. And I thought that would be really interesting, like kind of them helping me reinvent this space, or kind of getting into my, you know, my zone, so to speak. But because we couldn't do that.
And there's a small book that they would look at while they were in the bed.
Exactly. So I do have a book of images. That was the way I was incorporating a photograph into that piece, is they could look at these hand printed images of the bed. So yeah, so that was my experience. I'm really glad I did it. And I definitely would try something like that again. And it was also just pushing my own boundaries to try something new that's not necessarily photo based.
I feel like it also spoke to like kind of how you are with like letting things go or not letting things go. How like even though like all of the work was like gone from you and was at the gallery, you were there with it, which like I don't know, I've only been to the gallery the day that it opened. Like that's it. I haven't been back, and I feel like you have, and you've taken photos and you've shown people, and like there's something about, I don't know, you're like the mother of the objects and you're like checking on them. And I really feel like the bed piece like totally made sense for me, that you would sleep there with all of the objects and like take care of them one night.
I never thought of it that way. That's really cool. Yeah, you're right. I'm very much a control freak, but also I do like to be around for those interactions. So I think that's why I've been trying to be here more. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for the sleep performance, I think. Yeah.
The live stream and the recording too also has a kind of voyeuristic component to it, right? Where I'm getting a very intimate look into both of your personal lives, despite having things obscured, despite having, I'm really getting to know what happened in these kind of very, very intimate ways. And I think that video, specifically the way that we place the webcam, the way that it kind of looks, the way that kind of the end result looks, talks to the kind of, you know, crux of a bit of the aesthetic of this exhibition as well, with that kind of very, you know, I'm taking a very intimate look at what happened.
Absolutely.
So to touch a little bit on that, so this exhibition has live performance, it has, you know, video, it has objects, it has text, it has images, you know, there are constellation views of it, there's a bit of collage, a little bit, you know, there's paper and drawing on top of images, there's, you know, all of these kind of things. Do you feel a little bit that photo is limited in describing these experiences? Do you feel, because both of you have, you know, the diploma from SPAO that was photo specific, you've both kind of branched out a little bit, kind of experimenting a little bit. Do you feel a limitation with the kind of medium? Or do you feel like this is just the only way that you knew that to kind of express what was happening? Yeah.
Bye, Olivia, thanks. And thank you for your question. We'll get back to that. Hannah, why don't you go and take that one first?
Yeah, I don't like to say that it is limiting. That makes me feel like weird, but I've always added text to photo, and I've always like added other elements. And I remember once actually having a crit in first or second year SPAO, and somebody saying like, why do you never think that photo is enough? Because I was like adding stuff onto photos, and I never wanted it to be like it wasn't enough. I just felt like it works so well in conjunction with other things to like push, like I was saying, like to tell my story that I want to tell, because photos are so like subjective in the way that we read them, and I like the control of adding things on. I mean, for me too, like I've always dabbled in a lot of different kinds of art, so it's like, as much as like photo is like my first love, like collage and drawing and painting and stuff is also part of my practice. So I think it's really natural for me to not just stick to photo and like to include other things. And I also like that it's less like, there's something about the way that we've done this show too, that it makes it very like non-commodifiable in a way. Like the piece that I have that has the vellum over it, it's not just like framed. You can't just go pick it up and then buy it and take it. It's like very delicate, and there's something I like about that idea where like the ephemerality of it is also like non-commodification, which I like because, yeah, I don't know, that part of art, like I haven't really been showing anything anymore because there's something about galleries that makes me feel kind of weird. And so like there is that part of making a constellation piece, as you called it, with a bunch of different pieces. It's like, does the buyer have to buy every single piece of that for the piece to remain the same? And it's like, it sort of complicates like a piece in that way that I find really intriguing. Because it's like, how would you go about purchasing it? Like, how would that look? So yeah, that's my thoughts. Jen?
Yeah, I don't know if you said this, but definitely you mentioned it in your notes that like talking about the amount of photos that we encounter on a daily basis. And I think that is part of why I like to include audio pieces, or I do projections, or textual elements, is I think we are, daily bombarded by images. So I'm always trying to make someone stop for a minute. And, the whole point, I love doing audio pieces is usually I have them on headphones, and I'm trying to force someone to take a minute to listen to this and like block out everything else. So I think that sometimes adding another element can potentially make someone pay attention for a little bit longer, or add more context. Yeah, and I'm also interested in like bringing that photo off the wall a little bit, trying to use elements to make it less 2D, less like a screen, so that's my thought.
And yeah, anybody who hasn't listened to Jen's audio pieces, one of them is a collaboration like of things we both did, but Jen put them both together. And the other piece, like I think for your other one that is not a photo piece, like it's so atmospheric, and like it does give you an into that moment in a way that photos and text and visual things don't. And like as somebody, like I'm not a very audio person, like I don't think to make sound-based pieces or anything. Yeah, it really like it gets to you in a different way. But yeah, you should check those out if you haven't, for anybody who avoids audio pieces like I do.
Yeah,
it's so true. So when you come in, you get welcome to the gallery, right? You sanitize everything. And then we turn the one of the audio pieces on. And the biggest thing that we've been noticing is that we have to come in and check on people to say, hey, how are you dealing with the audio? And they say, actually, can I have a break for a minute? Because it does hit you in a different way. It really does. One visitor said he couldn't read and listen at the same time. One person said that it just hit them so hard that they just needed like a minute of silence to like process what they had heard. So I think you're very right that audio and visual, they hit you in different moments, and to combine them makes an even powerful kind of message.
for sure.
Yeah, let's get to that question that we saw from someone. Okay, so would SPAO the artist consider making little print books of the images that folks can buy if they can't be there, sort of like a zine or like an exhibition catalog? I'd love to get to the point to offer exhibition catalogs for every exhibition I do, or at least the professional ones like this one. I'd love to get to that point. I'm not sure about the artists. I would never force it on them to do it unless it was part of the bigger idea. I would never kind of say, we have to do that. If it's part of it, then absolutely. But that kind of zine style comes down to me, and I would love to be able to do that at some point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it definitely is it's a great idea. And I think for artists, it sometimes comes down to cost. Putting on an exhibition you have to pay for framing and printing and et cetera. And the gallery has to cover a lot of costs as well. So sometimes it's a matter of that. But I love the idea. I love zines. I make just make handmade ones out of paper with my students and get them to draw their own. But yeah, it's a great idea. I don't plan to for this show. I'm kind of done with this material. So sorry, but I will keep that in mind for the future. Good suggestion.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be like, I I would want it to be a piece of its own that we could maybe share that was with the purpose of being shared. Like, I wouldn't really want people to have a little book of these images that are in here. I would have wanted to have picked those. But I do, yeah, I also have always loved like print media and zines and stuff. And it would be really cool. But I think, yeah, it would have to be, especially with like personal subject matter, I would want like a say in what went in it rather than like the whole show. I don't think the whole show is meant to be seen that way. So like the vellum piece, and you know, it's not meant to be seen like that maybe. So, but I do love the idea of it. We should make that just for ourselves, Jen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I was just gonna say, was there anything else? I think that's the end of it for tonight. But yeah, I think people are kind of like there. Where can we see more of your work? Where can we follow you more? What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, Disposable Image is my artist handle, so that you'll find me on Instagram or disposableimage.com for what I'm up to. So thanks.
And I don't have a website currently. Probably won't really have one again, but I put my Instagram handle in the chat because it's just spelled a little weird, but just my name. Yeah.
And thanks, Darren, if I can take this opportunity for all his work on the show. We really appreciate the opportunity and your thoughtful discussion questions and arranging this talk for us. So thanks.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody who came. It was nice to see.
Yes.
Have some engagement in the show. It's so sad not having an actual event. Like, heartbreaking. So it's nice to still be able to talk to people about it and have a glass of beer.
And just for people too, keep in mind, if you ever email me or leave messages, you know, you've seen the show or you saw the online component and you want to let the artist know, you know, I forward those off right away. So love all the messages in the chat. Don't be afraid to email me. I just click forward and it goes right to them. So feel free to leave messages. Quick reminder, we've got a call out for exhibitions. So if you have an exhibition in mind, feel free to submit. Otherwise, that's it. Enjoy your weekend. Come on in and see the exhibition and have a great winter season coming up. Oh, our next show is going to be Undergrowth by Sarah Angelucci, who's dealing with photography and human impact on the natural world. And that opens in January. So there's that. But otherwise, thanks, Jen and Hannah. Stay on and we'll just say goodbye to everybody else. But if you guys don't mind taking a minute there to just stay on, we'll chat quickly and that's it.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That was awesome. I think we had a pretty good turnout. I wasn't paying attention. Do you know approximately how many people were here?
I don't, but I know that I think maybe Jocelyn.
26, I think.
Hmm?
26, maybe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So the only thing that I wanted to talk about is how to incorporate the Padlets onto the digital exhibition page if you wanted to or not.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's the only thing that, yeah.
So
I don't know how.
Yeah, I
maybe
guess
just a screen grab or like maybe I can download it. Yeah.
Yeah, you could put a link. Like I'll take a look if I can close it. But you could put the link up and then we could do I can do a screen grab too, if you want.
Okay. Oh wait, share or embed export. I think I can export it as a link or embed it into the blog. I can embed it into the website. So I'll do that. I'll put it on as like a engagement so that people can do it even afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, let me know if you have any issues with that. Thanks, Leo.
Okay. Sounds good.
I saw 33. Oh, thanks, Leo. He said he saw 33 at some point. Thanks, Jane.
Oh, perfect.
For coming. Thanks, Julie. And Jenna already said thank you. That's awesome. Really good. Thank you. That went really well.